talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.
Welcome back to another episode of Caged In. I'm your host, Chris DiCarlo. You know, the boys are back with another Cage Titans 60 event recap. And you know, I had to bring in my main man, Ferris from the Hurt Business Podcast. What's good, my boy?
What's up, brother? How we doing today? I'm so
I'm,
excited, man.
dude, I'm doing great, man. You know, it was an amazing weekend, as always, over in Plymouth Memorial Hall at Cage Titans. Was a pleasure kicking it with you throughout the entire event, man. And, you know, like I said, man, we're back to do another recap. The people love them. We're going to keep doing them.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, part of the appeal for me about these Cage Titans event is this podcast right here, doing this recap, getting a chance to kind of talk to the fighters without talking to them directly. So I'm excited about this one, man.
For sure, man. Let's just roll right into it, bro. Beginning of the night, started off hot. Overall, before we actually start jumping into the fights, how did you feel about the event as a whole?
Good question. I mean, I compared to the other events, I thought the lead up didn't feel. I mean, there were big fights on the card, big returns, but it didn't feel like a big card. Like, oh, we gotta see this, we gotta see that. Yeah, there was a humongous amateur title fight that we'll get into, but for the most part, I didn't feel like the hype was all the way there. And then the event happened, and it was a great event. Being there, man, it was a fucking blast, and I think it exceeded the expectations. So I say yes, it was a really good event.
For sure, man. I agree with you 100%. The big appeal for this card, you know, was obviously headlined by that massive amateur title fight. And then, of course, we had the return of Jay Perrin, the return of Don Shainis, who are, you know, their first fight back from the UFC, which is huge. Those are two beloved guys inside the Plymouth Memorial Hall as well. So we got to witness that. And it was good to see them back in there. I know, obviously, we'd like to see them back in the UFC, but selfishly as fans in the hall, it's good to see them perform again live and get to see them. And then, of course, you know, the other pro fights that we'll get into, everything kind of ended up playing out well, and the card ended up going well. It's very entertaining, a lot of finishes as always, and just another exciting night at the Plymouth Memorial Hall for Cage Titans, man. Like we say every time, it doesn't disappoint. If you haven't been to a show, get your tickets and go, because once you go to one, you'll get hooked. You know, I met a couple guys that were our sponsors of Joe Poirier, and they came for a Joe Poirier fight a few cards ago. And Joe Poirier wasn't even fighting on this card, and those guys still showed back up to come down just to watch the fights, and they're from upstate New York. You know what I mean? They made the haul all the way down just to see the Cage Titans product, man. So it is something that really gets the fans hooked, and it's something that people fall in love with, like once they see it for the first time.
And the stars came out for this one. I mean, Jaylen Brown was there. Chris Kurt was there. Shout out Jay Perrin for bringing Chris Kurt, and then shout out Boogs for bringing JB. The stars showed up to Plymouth, man.
The stars were out, man. It was a hell of a night. You know, we got to chop it up with the Action Man a little bit. You know, a lot of Arby's talk about the Jamocha shakes and whatnot. You know what I mean? Such a cool dude.
Surprising.
I know, right?
I definitely didn't expect that shit, but that dude was awesome in person. Like, he seems like a character in interviews or whatever, but in person, that dude's awesome.
Yeah, he was fun to just chop it up with, man. And, you know, he was cool about taking pictures with everybody that asked him for photos. Yeah. So, you know, we had to snap a couple flicks. But yeah, man, so cool to see those guys in the building. And then the whole Jaylen Brown thing is even crazier, man, because, you know, especially in Boston and in Massachusetts, you know, one of the biggest stars on the Boston Celtics just happens to be in attendance, man. And it was just cool to go over and like say what's up to him real quick. And I know you got to get a flick with him too, which is fire. So I'm low key jealous about that one. But
well, it took me,
cool,
you know, it definitely took me like 15 minutes of standing in one spot to secure my flick, but it was well worth it, man. It was a good investment and a great outcome. And the flick, per usual, like whenever I get a flick with like a super big star like that, somebody like I'm a massive fan of, my eyes in the picture are like this big. It looked like I was just shoving my face in some.
You're like, yeah, man. We're doing it. We're getting it. We're doing it.
Like, I cannot believe I'm like right next to JB in my selfie with Dana. Like, I look insane, and it's just it's the excitement, man.
Of course, man. I don't blame you at all.
It was dope. It was dope to get a picture with JB.
For sure, man. Like I said, super jealous about that one. But happy for you, man, because I know you were geeked when you came back and you got the flick. So super dope. All right, man. Let's get into the card a little bit. The night started off hot with Shane Doherty versus Jeff Joy in a super fight grappling match. Right off the top, man, Shane was the first person to enter the cage, and he always brings that energy. If you saw his walkout, he comes in hype every single time, walks out, jumps on the staircase, runs his way to the cage, gets inside, and the dude always makes a scene every time he steps in the cage. And I knew that he was going to bring that energy. Luckily, I got to talk to him on my podcast, and it's good to see him back in action. Unfortunately, it wasn't in MMA, but I know that's going to be coming, around the corner. So it's good to see Shane back in action. And he took on a guy in Jeff Joy who trains over at Daniel Gracie, a very well-rounded gym, especially for their jiu-jitsu. I knew that this matchup between these two guys was going to be a very technical matchup between the guys. Shane is very high energy. Jeff's very technical and high energy. Their styles match each other inside there. And it was the perfect way to start off Cage Titans 60 because, like I said, they brought the energy. They were technically sound, both very good at what they do. And it ended up going into a draw because it ran through the time limit. At the end, man, Shane knew the time was running low. He started rolling for legs, tried to pull off something quick with the knees and the ankles, try and get something locked up before the end of the time. But unfortunately, ends up going to a draw. Both men looked very good inside there, man. But I can't wait to see them both put the gloves back on and get back in there and scrap.
Agreed, brother. Agreed. And like we hear grappling super fight all the time, and it doesn't ever really feel like a super fight. But like you look at these guys on paper, this one's a big one, man. These guys are two of the most well known MMA partitioners in the region, and they just so happen to scrap in grappling, and it was fun, man. Everything you described and more. So high scale, and I'm excited to see them jump back in there, but in MMA this time.
Yeah, man, 100%. Like I said, they're both very talented. They're both big stars inside that Cage Titans cage. The fact that we got to see them roll versus each other was dope. Once they decide to put those gloves back on and get their fights rolling again, everybody will be locked in and tuned in. I know it's been a while for Shane Doherty, so very excited to see him put the gloves back on. And Jeff Joyce kind of had to battle through some injury stuff, so whenever he gets cleared to fight, it's going to be very exciting to see him back in there because both those guys are absolute studs.
Yeah, they are, dude.
All right, man. Let's roll into the next one then, man. We go off. The second fight of the night was a Muay Thai bout. We had Whitty versus Clark, man. Very technical Muay Thai fight. The thing that I like now about these Muay Thai fights that these things keep popping up at Cage Titans is I keep seeing a lot more use of the elbows in Muay Thai because it wasn't really allowed as much in like amateur Muay Thai before, but then they gave them the pads, and even when they got the pads on, a lot of the guys weren't really using them. I think maybe because it was still so new. But now it's becoming more of a thing that I'm seeing more in these amateur fights. So both these guys were working the elbows really well, which I thought was awesome because those can do a lot of damage, especially more damage with those padded elbows and the big gloves they have on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to watch, man.
Yeah, it is, man. And Richard Clark, he was so much taller, so it looked like he had the clear advantage to come over the top. But Carter Whitty, man, that dude's witty for sure.
Yeah,
he kind of looked like Corey Sandhagen for a second. I had to do a double take. Like, wait a second, don't you got to fight in Nashville in a few weeks? But
right.
But yeah, man, Carter looked really good, and so did Richard. This was two tough dudes going at it, and it was a fun fight, man. First fight of the night, really, right? After the grappling fight, and his start of the show for real.
Yeah, man, for sure. And Carter is one of those guys that fights over at Regiment. He had his teammate Aaron Hughes was also on the card, so it was good to see Regiment start off the night hot with a 1-0, get that W for Whitty, and then get us started in the MMA action, which rolled over to what's this guy's name? Connor Morrell versus Jack High Noon. I was very excited to see Jack Noon, man. Like I said pre-fight, he has one of the best nicknames in the game.
Yeah.
I was hoping for him to come out there and get the W tonight, man, because if he went out there and put on a show, did something special, the way that he brands himself and the way that he fights, man, he could have like shot himself into the stardom race of the Cage Titans Amis. But Buckets came out there and did his thing, man. He got the split decision W. How'd you feel about the decision? Did you have it going to Buckets, or did you have it going towards Jack High Noon?
I thought the right man won. Like you, I found myself kind of rooting for Jack a little bit just because, like you said, it's so marketable. Like it's just fun. Like the High Noon, like the chance, it'd be sick. But I definitely thought Conor Morrell did enough to win the fight, and yeah, it was just really good back and forth. Both guys were not backing down. That was the best part of it, where they were just coming forward, and Yeah, man. Ultimately, I definitely thought Connor won. What did you
I
think?
No, I agree with you, man. I think Connor definitely deserved the W, and it was definitely a good decision by the judges. Very close fight. It doesn't go to a split decision for no reason. Very very close fight. I think both guys showed a lot of skill in there. You can see how raw Jack Noon still is. You can still see his skills are developing. Conor Morale's more of an older guy than Jack is. Um, but the Buckets definitely deserve that W. The decision went the right way, but still very excited to see uh, High Noon and Buckets, get back in there and fight again for Cage Titans, man, because they put on a show for sure.
Is Buckets his fight nickname?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. If it's
Okay,
not, I'm
okay.
calling him by the wrong name this whole time.
I have no idea either way. I think Buckets is a sick nickname though. I don't think I've
Hell
heard
yeah.
that before.
I see it on his Instagram that he's like a barber and stuff too. So
Oh,
he's nice,
dope.
nice with the scissors, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Artistic guy. He had some interesting ink like tatted all over him. Like, and I was recording him on the way out, and he was super duper hyped. It was cool to
Mhm.
see, man. That energy was he was definitely at an all-time high right there.
Oh, for sure, man. It was a very entertaining fight, like I said, man. And I think the best man won that night in Conor Morale. So congrats to him. Like I said, hopefully we'll see both these guys back in there soon because they definitely put on a show for us for sure. All right, man. Let's roll it right over. This is one that I was very excited for because I heard about this kid, Travis Solard. He goes by Sweeps. I heard that people were very high on him. I'm pretty sure this was his amateur debut, taking on another 0-0 guy in Kevin Gonzalez. Both these guys just like young Ammies trying to get
Mhm.
their way in the game. But I've heard very, very good things about Sweeps. I know he trains over at Triforce with a lot of those guys over there in Rhode Island. And the kid didn't disappoint, man. This fight was crazy for as long as it lasted. Both guys went out there and put on a show. Ultimately, Sweeps goes in there, gets the submission win. I know he's a BJJ black belt, so he definitely has that credential to him. He was definitely playing to his strengths for sure there. And the kid goes in there and proves everybody right and lives up to the hype for sure. And I think that he definitely set himself on a pace for people to start looking out for this kid once they see Cage Titans cards rolling around.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Especially whenever I seen a lot of people there representing the UFC gym, the one in
Mhm,
Boston, where Kevin trains,
mhm.
and a lot of hype behind him. And I thought he was coming into it, so I had my eyes set on him. And I thought another 0-0 guy. We never know what to expect with a guy who's coming from 0-0. He's coming from a good gym, so we have high hopes and high regards. And he comes in and smashes it and looks awesome. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for both of these guys to make a return and potentially fight another guy, another young guy, so we can really see them tested once again, man. It was fun, man.
Exactly, man. Whenever we get these Cage Titans cards, I love how they stack the amateur undercard with a lot of 0 and O's and 1 and
Yeah,
O's and 0 and 1s because these guys are still fresh and trying to figure out what kind of fighter they are. So they're just going in there and putting their skills to the test and seeing like throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks type fights. You know what I mean? Which I love that because you can't predict how stuff's gonna go in these young amateur fights, man. That's why they almost become more exciting and more unpredictable than the pro card, which is always why you got to get into the hall early. Go enjoy these Emmy fights, man, because they don't disappoint on that undercard. They put them in there for a reason.
yeah, they do, bro. And it's also like that whole comparison between like people die hard college football fans.
Hmm.
And people are like, they're not even professionals. Why do you even like waste your time? And it's like, this is like real good shit. And
Hmm.
so it's the same thing with amateur fighting, man. It deserves all the attention it doesn't get yet.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you, and that's why that you see some of the biggest crowds of people come out for the Emmy fights. This card in particular. I think the most anticipated fight was Ozzy versus
Mhm.
Brody. We're gonna get into that one in a little bit. We got a couple more fights to get through before we step into that
Let's do
mess
it.
of a fight, man. That shit was beautiful chaos for sure. But like I said, these Emmy fighters draw bigger crowds sometimes than the pros do. So, and they do that for a reason because people are there and knowing what they're going to get with these matchups, and they always turn out to be obviously some better than others. Of course, that's fighting, but always entertaining because like I said, you never know
Mhm.
what you're going to get with these young kids.
Yeah, man. They always show up, that's for sure.
Hell yeah, man. All right, let's roll into the next one, man. We have Brandon Boats versus his opponent, Naquan Calderin. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that man's name. If I did, I apologize. But Brandon Boats is a staple inside the Cage Titans cage at this point, man. This is his third amateur fight. He's one of the older guys that he took his first fight because he was training and he wanted to get an amateur fight in just because it was a check off the bucket list, which anybody can relate to that. But once you get that taste of victory, man, you keep coming back. It becomes addicting. And Brandon Boats has found success early in both his amateur fights. He's a 2-0, 2 first round finishes. This guy comes in here and he gets the job done. This time, not as fast as the other ones. He goes in there, 3-round decision, gets the W. The man's 3-0 now. I wonder what's next for him. Is he going to keep going, or did he finally, get the taste that he was looking for, and might just go back to training and stay away from the fighting now? But who knows? That's a question for him. I'd love to talk to him and pick his brain a little bit. But Brandon Boats, man, like I said, staple inside the Cage Titans cage, goes in there, puts on a show. A lot of people come out for him every time. And the dude he got it done in 3-round decision, man. Definitely deserving of the win.
Yeah, man. Something about that guy. Like even most of the people that weren't there. There's some people that weren't there to see him. I know the guys in front of us were specifically there to see our next fight.
Mhm.
And this guy, Brandon Boats, had the whole arena chanting his name. Like everybody just gets behind him. Something about him. Maybe it's his age. Maybe it's, I don't know, the story. I don't know what it is. But every time he fights, man, the whole arena gets behind him. And that shit's special.
You see the
That
way
shit's
he walks
special.
out, man, like, the dude takes his shirt off, and you're like, "Wait, how old is that guy?" You know what I mean? The dude is absolutely shredded, man.
Yeah.
I'm 31, and he makes me look terrible, you know what I mean? So, the dude's in shape. He puts all the work in. He deserves all the love and all the wins that he's racked together so far, man. So shout out to Boats. He's a good ass dude too. If you ever get to talk to him around the arena, he's a super nice dude.
Yeah, I met him at weigh-ins. We chatted for a second. And he was really awesome, man. Just briefly, because he's cutting weight and stuff. I don't
Right.
want to definitely, and he's rehydrating at this point. I'm definitely not going to be the one to try to make conversation then. But
Of
he was
course.
he was really good to me, man. He was nice, welcoming, and he's a savage when it comes fight time. And I was recording him on the way out, and I was like, "Boats, how you feeling?" He goes, "Dying,
Yeah.
but good, but good, but good." I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, man. Congratulations."
Yeah, you
It's
could
just
tell that
awesome,
gas
homie.
tank was faded, man. Because I said his first 2 fights ended both inside the first round. They ended so fast. This one goes 3 rounds, man. I was curious how that gas tank was gonna hold up. You could tell he was getting tired in there, but the
Yeah.
man stuck through it and, put his head down and got the W, man. So props to Boats, man. It was almost more impressive to see him go the distance than it was to see him get 2 early victories in his first 2 for sure.
Agreed, man. Those 5-minute rounds is no joke.
Yeah, man. Going the distance, man. Obviously, you train for it and you plan for it. But I think your adrenaline dumps and your gas tank empties in there pretty quick. I don't know from experience, and I never will. But
So we can
but
never see
I
a
can I can
caged
only.
in taking the cage.
Never say never, man. But
Oh,
it's not on the horizon. That's for damn sure.
they got to bring out the checkbooks, huh?
Yeah, man. Bring the Brinks truck. His face is way too pretty to be getting punched in for free.
Amen. Amen. I agree, dude. I agree. But shout out Boats, man. And I made that mistake. It was 3-3s, not 3-5s.
Yeah,
You know
three
what I mean?
threes. Yep. Yes, sir.
My
Yes,
bad. So
sir.
9 minutes total, but none in doubt, man. That's a long time of fighting at a high pace like that.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, man. You mentioned it earlier. The people that were sitting in front of us, man, they all pulled up for one reason and one reason only, and that was their man Shane Mulligan. They had the whole section bought out, man. They had the signs on the
Yeah.
seats reserved
Reserved.
reserved for the family, man. I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah.
a full section like that bought out ahead of time. So props to them. And they came out, man. This was Shane Mulligan's return to MMA. He's been gone for 8 years.
Mm.
The return was going to bring all the family and friends out. They had to come and see it, and they weren't disappointed, man. It was an absolute banger. First of all, both these two dudes were tall as hell. I was very surprised to see them walk to the cage with each other because I didn't know they could find 2 guys this tall in this weight class to fight each other, but they found probably the only 2 in the area that are ambies that could fight each other at that height. So and that immediately when they walk in, that's intriguing. You're already locked in. And then second of all, knowing the story, because we got to talk to Shane's dad before the fight a little bit, and he was kind of telling us the background about, how Shane's been away and that, went and had a family and, now he's back in the cage getting ready to scrap again. So that immediately knew that I was going to be locked in from opening bell. And, he didn't disappoint, man. Shane goes out there. He ate a spinning back kick to the head that kind of put him on wobbly legs a little bit. You know what I mean? But he gets his wits about him real quick, dust the cobwebs off, comes back with a couple punches of his own, close the distance, get hands on him, drag him down and finish it with a first round submission. So the 8-year, ring rust, he definitely had to shake that off a little bit. I think that spinning back kick to the head kind of knocked a lot of that ring rust off for him, and gave him the wobbly legs, but he was able to fight through that, and he got that big W, man. In the crowd, everybody in front of us is going crazy. Pops is going nuts.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see, man, because we happen to be, standing right behind that section. So it's always cool to see the families react, and I'm glad that that family was able to get that W that night, man. It was cool to watch.
Yeah, man. I mean, his whole family came out. It was like the friends came out. And his dad gave us a few minutes before we first showed up, and he was so good. He was an awesome dude. I just wanted to talk to that guy all night.
I know,
And
right? It was cool.
yeah, he was awesome, and definitely was worried whenever his son ate that big shot in that first round. But shout out to Shane for recovering, and then he I don't know what it was, man. He stood there, and you could tell he was hurt, but he was so composed in that moment, and he didn't let it overtake the moment, and he secured the rear naked, man, the classic rear naked. So shout out him after a long layoff, and maybe some pro fights next.
Hey, man, we'll see. It's all up to Shane, man. He's been away for so long. Maybe he, wants to get in there and get some more work in first. But very interested to see what happens with him. Hopefully hopefully his plan is to get back in there and fight again, because his style was very, very entertaining. And the height, like I'm saying, man, it captivates you the second you see someone that tall walk into the cage, for sure. So congrats to Shane, and, congrats to the family for getting that W, man. It was awesome to watch. Getting into this next fight, man, Ozzy Martin versus Brody McDougal, probably the most anticipated fight on the entire fight card at Cage Titan 60. We had to bring in the man who had the best seat in the house, Andrew Valdina, the man with the microphone on Saturday night. First and foremost, man, thank you for coming on and, giving your 2 cents on some of these fights, man. We appreciate the time as always. Going into this Ozzy versus Brody fight, man, before the fight even started, what was your expectation for what was about to happen before the bells even rang?
Man, I'm pumped I got brought in for this fight in particular. But first, before that, thank you guys as well. I am always a fan of like the recaps you guys do for Cage Titans and stuff, and I definitely always look forward to seeing it. So the fact that I'm a part of it, I'm pumped.
Appreciate you, big dog.
You're the first guest, and then there's no better person.
That's right, man. If this works out, man, we might have to start bringing the guest thing in like every recap we do. So don't let us down.
Yeah, I'll try my best, guys. But no, as far as Ozzy Brody, man, like I was even on the commentary, like just bracing myself. I was like, listen, the skills can already like put people in their seats. Everyone knows what these two can bring, especially from the clips and the highlight reel fights and finishes they've had. But just that, like the back and forth they've kind of like had leading up to it a little bit too, man. There was so much invested in this fight. People are calling this the most anticipated AMI title fight, of all Cage Titans history. So right. I was so stoked to have a front row seat for it. And the fight was nothing short of just absolute mayhem. Like, God, I mean, it was back and forth as much as if it was a butchering in some spots. Sorry, Ozzy. Brody has long rangy strikes and he's really killing it. But then just when I think, man, this is a done deal, let's pack her up, guys. Ozzy. Bang!
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That right hand is dynamite, man.
On wobbly legs, baby giraffe legs, and geez, every single fan in that place was screaming on their feet. That was my favorite fight of the night for sure.
Oh, easily, man.
Agreed.
Easily fight of the night. A lot of people are saying that it rivals, Peter Barrett and Mo for like just overall Cage Titans fight of the year. I still give it to Pete and Mo, but this is definitely locked up. Pack it up, print the plaque out now for AMI Fight of the Year for sure. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be something that can be able to touch this. I know we still got some cards left, but this was...
We're only in July, buddy.
I know, man, but I'm ready to book it right now,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
These guys, I called it earlier, man. This fight was like beautiful chaos, and it was everything that we thought it was going to be. I said to Ferris before the show, I was like, everybody's so hype about this fight, man. I just hope that it's not one of those fights that everybody's so hyped for that doesn't live up to the expectations, but this fight met the expectations and then blew that through the roof too. Brody, the way he came in, man, he's always so unorthodox with his angles. He moves very like unorthodox. The way he chooses his angles is beautiful, and his gas tank is seemingly like endless. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
And then Ozzy, man, was weathering the storm, landing big shots of his own. That right hand could put anybody to sleep, but Brody was able to, wear a couple of those on the chin and return and land some shots of his own, man. Ferris, man, how'd you feel about how the fight, man?
Dude, everything you guys said, man. I mean, this fight, I was just so excited for it, for the stylistic matchup. Like, both guys are just gonna come and stand and bang. They're not gonna, no disrespect to the wrestlers, but they're not gonna try to shoot and grapple and try to, not make it it was gonna be a fun fight. It had all the recipe for a banger, and it fucking smashed it out the waters, man.
It really did, man. I like how like the build up to the fight too. They were both super intense, but also super respectful of each other,
Yeah.
which I thought was awesome because they both came in there to like talk their shit and do what they always do without like talking shit about their opponent or trying to put the other person down. So they built each other up while also being intense and
Yeah.
nose to nose as they possibly could get, man. And even post fight, Ozzy post fight and Brody's post fight, they were both super respectful of each other.
Yeah.
And I think now that we're looking at Brody going pro, and I think this is now kind of Ozzy's space to just take over that division as to be like the head honcho of that division in the Emmys for Cage Titans for sure.
I kind of want to
Yeah.
ask you, Valdina, this. You were a guy who had a really successful Emmy career with Cage Titans and then transitioned into a pro career. What is your advice to Brody, who's trying to make similar leaps?
As far as Brody, man, I think he did everything right. He took tough fights. I think he actually, nothing. First of all, nothing against Cage Titans at all, because I think truly they are the best organization in the region. I really do believe that. The way they treat the fighters, the way they are, whatever. But I think Brody did something smart, as in like going to other organizations before he turned pro. So that's not going to be anything new to him, in the professional ranks of having to travel somewhere else and stuff. So I think that was a good thing he did. But as far as like once you turn pro, man, like, yeah, you took all the tough fights, and everybody has a different approach. You can take it or leave it when I say this, but I think now's the time to start like, strategically kind of like thinking about who your opponents are going to be and kind of like looking at an outline of how, your career can go, especially right off the rip. Everyone has a different approach, but I kind of take the approach of having, just skills like constantly going up and up and up in each opponent that I face. And I think if Brody did that, he's going to have an insanely successful career. He has such a good camp that he comes from. I think as long as he just keeps his, as humble as he can, keep himself humble, but while still having that swagger that he has, you know what I mean? That American Psycho type of swagger where he's a little like, it's like you said, it's the most respectful type of smack talk that he has with his opponents. So as long as he keeps it to himself, stays true to himself, stays humble, and strategically picks these fights now, like I think he'll be a star, as he already is.
For sure, man. And that term pro too does open up a whole new set of doors for him, man, where the guy has his pick of the litter at this point. Like you said, picking those opponents is very strategic. And like you said, he has a great camp that will be able to guide him through those doors as well. So I have nothing but high hopes for Brody's pro career. And I could tell that he was jacked up too to now get that title under his belt. This is his second Emmy title. And now we can make that turn and go pro. So very excited to see what's on the horizon for him. And on the flip side of that, just as excited to see what goes on with Ozzy, man, because whatever this kid decides to do next, I think he's a star. He lost no stock, even though he took an L, lost zero stock in the eyes of the fans. His stock only grew that night. You've seen it on his face, the damage that he was wearing. The dude didn't go down. He got stopped by the doctor. That dude probably would have gone all 5 if he could. So just props to both those guys. Thank you guys for putting on an absolute war and setting the Cage Titans 60 fan crowd on fire, man, because that shit was amazing for sure.
Yeah, dude. And how crazy was it? Like, it felt like coming into it'd be a predominantly a Brody crowd, and then they're chanting Ozzy, Ozzy.
It was
Ozzy.
nuts.
Man, that shit was awesome.
That was insane. Was he from Macony or something like that?
Yeah, he's from New Hampshire. Yeah, he lives in New Hampshire.
Like that place was packed with New Hampshire residents, dude. That was crazy. I didn't expect it either.
It was like
nuts,
consistent. Man. It was like every round.
It
well,
was.
You know what it is, man. Like obviously he has his own fan base, but it's all like the Cage Titans crowd in particular, man. They just love violence. And they love true fights. So like as soon as they see a true fight, everybody's gonna scream. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that fight was just amazing.
Definitely, man. Valdina, before we get you out of here, man, I wanted to ask you. We saw one of your teammates. We're gonna talk about his fight later on, Marty Navis. We saw that he, laid the gloves down and announced his retirement. As someone who trains with him and knows him well, How'd you feel about that moment Saturday night?
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was probably like the toughest moment for me in the commentary booth. Like just because I got a lot of love for Marty. I see him bust his ass, every single time he's in that gym. He's such a hard worker. He gave everything to himself, to the sport. And, he had a family. He has a family as well that he has to take care of. So he had a lot in a full-time job. So he has a full plate in front of him. And the fact that he was still putting himself on the line like that, even with his family in attendance too, like I have the utmost respect for that man. And, as much as like it's a sad thing seeing him retire and all that, which it was very emotional night, that emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has anything to hang his head on, hang his head for. And, I think he's actually just getting started for the best moments of his life. He's a kid that he gets to raise and look forward to that. And he's going to be just the best father figure from what he's already gone through and, lessons he can give to his child. So I think, the sky's the limit still for Marty. I don't think fighting, like the fact that he retired, is going to limit, his success in life whatsoever.
For sure, man. Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. I've had the pleasure of just, speaking to Marty inside the arena and, post fight and whatnot. I don't know him super well, but just like a super nice guy. Definitely like one of the OGs that kind of runs around the Plymouth Memorial Hall. He definitely has a big hand in a lot of you guys' training as far as like the guys over at Lozon's. And I know all you guys hold him in such high regard and say nothing but nice things about him. So it was a bittersweet moment. Was sad to see him hang it up, but it was awesome to see just the amount of outpouring love that everybody had for him too that night. So, like I said, bittersweet. I wish the fight went his way, man, but beautifully said the way you said it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's the man.
Yeah, shout out Marty, man. Anytime you've seen it, and anytime at least I see his name on a card, I knew he's gonna show up, make weight, bring violence, and entertain us, man. And that's all we can thank him for.
There's never been a boring Marty fight. And
never, man.
As nice as he is, man, you wouldn't expect it going up to him. I get a little shivers even every time I talk to him. Look at that guy.
Yeah. He's a pretty intimidating dude, man, for sure. But the nicest guy, like you said. Yeah. And then one more thing before I get you out of here, man. The rest of the card, the whole card, how'd you feel about the entire night overall?
Oh, my God. It definitely delivered. I almost think, like, and I'm not taking anything away from any of the fighters, any of the promotion whatsoever. But I almost think that this card was almost like a sleeper card in a way where, like, people were, like, looking at the matchups and they're like, oh, yeah, this is good. Yeah, that's good. But it's, like, nothing to really get people, like, fired up. Like, oh, I'm getting my tickets, like, 7 months ago, Yeah. But as soon as the first scrap happened to the last, every single fight delivered, man. It's like, how can this happen every Cage Titans? I don't get it. So I was pumped to have that front row seat, like I said many times. I had an awesome time with Andy and Ken Moy. Those guys are freaking, veterans of the booth and in the cage, So it was really good. We had a good flow. I loved every single fight that happened. Truly, I can't think of a single fight that I was like yawning or looking away. Like it was a good time. And I just love Plymouth so much. I love the hall. I'm addicted, man. I can't get out of there.
I know, man. It was nice to actually be able to see you, not in fight mode for once. Normally every time we see you inside the hall, you're fighting on an event because you're so active. But it's nice that you've gone and taken this time off, and we got to hang out with you a little bit and chop it up outside of fighting, which is always a pleasure. But for the fans before we say goodbye, when could we possibly see the Gladiator back inside the cage?
Man, I was maybe looking at like a month or two away, but I don't know. Joe kind of shut it down. He thinks it's smart for me to wait a little bit longer. So I don't know, maybe end of the year. I heard there might be one last card late November or something like that for Cage Titans. So you shall see. I'm never quiet on social media. You know what I mean? So you guys will all be informed.
For sure, man. We love to hear it.
Editor, commentator, fighter, now like this dude's coming for it all, man.
Yeah, man. He wants all the hats.
Really quick before I go, I know you guys got a lot of things to talk about here, but thank you guys once again for having me on here. And like, not just on this little moment, any podcast that you guys have had me on, seriously, you guys give me that platform to be able to expand my, reach and stuff like that. And you guys are helping my career, just like you're helping your own. So thank you.
The best part is we can get you out of here without having to get all your sponsors fit into this episode.
Oh, so I have a list really quick.
Get them out. All right, Valdina, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, brother. Really appreciate the love, man. And it was nice meeting your pops finally, man.
Yeah,
that's
I
OG,
appreciate
man.
that. He's the man. He's the
Yeah,
man.
he is. Yeah, he is. Hey, man, Valdina, it was great to talk tonight, brother. We'll talk soon, yeah?
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, later, man.
Brother.
Later.
There he is, man. Andrew, the Gladiator Valdina, always a great man to have a conversation with, always a great dude to talk to. Glad that we got him worked in here as our first guest on the Cage Titans 60 recap show.
That dude is so genuine, bro. It blows my mind every time, man. That kid's awesome, man.
He is, man. And people always have nothing but good things to say about him. And anytime you guys hear people talk about Valdina, everything they say about him is true, man. He's a great dude for sure. All right, man, let's roll over to this pro card a little bit. Let's get into the first pro fight of the night. We had Greg Jones versus Daniel Bartolini. And I'm going to say this, man. This is the first fight where betting odds came into effect because obviously you can bet on pro fights. They had my man Greg Jones at minus 160, which I think was the easiest money to be made on the card, man. Because if you look at Bartinelli, like he was an older guy, just like Greg. Greg's 50. I think they're both 50. If I'm right on that one. Both guys making their pro debut. Greg was undefeated in his amateur career. If you look at Bartolini, no shots to him. A lot of red, a lot of losses on that amateur record, a couple of wins. So I think the lines honestly should have been wider than they were. And I want to say something to BetMGM because I don't know why we couldn't get props on this card, because Greg Jones by submission was the one line that I was the most excited to play because I thought that was the easiest paycheck ever. And it wasn't available, so I couldn't bet any props on this card. And coming from the guy that loves to bet and loves to throw some money around, once I saw Greg pull off the first round submission win, I was like, you motherfuckers, BetMGM. I was about to rob y'all blind. For real.
While we're on that BetMGM, man, you got another call out. What else did they do to you?
Oh man, the Aaron Hughes fight, the dude got a submission inside a minute, and they called the fight as postponed and didn't pay out the bettors, man. So I had to get on the line as a real degenerate bettor. You got guys from BetMGM on speed dial like I do, so I had to dial them up real quick and give them a piece of my mind last night, man. And then luckily this morning I woke up and they sent me a message saying that everything was squared away. They actually went through. I talked to them last night. They actually went through all the results again last night and made sure that all the wins and losses were correct on the betting lines and everybody was able to get paid out. So if you were one of those guys, thank me, man. It was me. Yeah, I actually, I'm not that much of a degenerate. I don't actually have a direct line to BetMGM. I actually went and sat on their stupid customer service chat last night for about an hour and a half. Those motherfuckers. But I got my money. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That was a well-spent hour and a half right there, brother.
Hey, man, I'll do anything for a correct win on my betting record. That's for damn sure. All right, man. Let's get into Greg Jones a little bit, man. That submission, man. That first round submission. What did you think about that fight overall, man?
I can't. Like Greg Jones is another one of these guys where he gets the whole Cage Titans, whoever's in that arena behind him. And I thought it was a great performance by him as expected. I thought it was definitely a first round finish. I don't see these guys like at that age kind of making it a full 15 minutes or maybe even 10 minutes. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, that dude trains with some badass dudes, man. And age is just a number. He makes it look like age is just numbers. He can get it at.
Another one of those guys that, he's 50 years old, but just in amazing shape. He puts in shape 30-year-old, 25-year-old guys, puts them to shame, man. So props to Greg Jones.
What are we doing, Chris?
It's funny. We're not doing anything right. It's what we're doing. We're sitting behind microphones and we're not in the gym like these guys are. You know what I mean? But dude, it's funny because Greg Jones is actually from my town. He's from Bourne, and literally Monday afternoon, I'm sitting on my lunch break and I listen to the table next to me and they're talking about, yo, did you guys see Greg's fight Saturday? That was crazy. That guy's a savage. And I was like, man, this dude really has the fan base out here, rocking with him. And he trains over at Daniel Gracie with Loco Lobo and those guys, man. Amazing camp. We talked about Jeff Joy trains out of there earlier. Shane Mulligan, I think, trains out of there as well. So just an amazing camp. They always bring out talent, the Cage Titans. And, shout out to Greg Jones for getting that first pro win under his belt. With him being 50, it begs the question, how many of these fights are we going to see Greg in and how many fights is he going to have? But it doesn't matter to me because every time we see him in there, it's a pleasure because the dude's grappling is just on another level, and his striking actually came through in this fight, man. I know Bartolini is known for like having heavy hands, so you can tell that Greg was kind of in there ready to get punched if he had to, and luckily for him, it didn't end up going that way. He was able to land some shots of his own, get the fight to the ground where he's most comfortable and most dominant, and sink in that submission victory for his first pro fight. I bet it feels nice to get paid for once for getting in a fist fight, Greg. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, big congrats. I heard him in the post-fight press conference talk about his striking and how he's not afraid to stand with guys anymore. And that's told me that he's been really working on it and that he's preparing himself for those stand-up moments. And that jiu-jitsu just comes out, man. He just it always shows up in fights.
Yeah, man, he's good at what he does, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's roll it over to the second pro fight on the card. Another short one, man. Speaking of, short, Aaron Short Fuse Hughes.
I thought you were trying to do that.
I wasn't at first, and I said it, and I was like, boom, I have to roll it over. Aaron Hughes versus Chris Burbridge. Aaron Hughes went through hell the last couple of weeks with his opponents. Burbridge is over there working on an oil rig in Alaska. Says that he's not going to be able to get off work in time to make the fight. He drops out. They get Aaron Hughes a new opponent. The dude doesn't get on the bus to get his medicals done, so he's out. And then Burbridge makes a phone call 2 days before the fight saying that he's back on, gets on a flight from Alaska to Plymouth Memorial Hall and gets in there to fight Aaron Hughes. All of it for naught because Hughes was able to put him away quickly with the patented Aaron Hughes guillotine. How'd you feel about Short Fuse's performance in there, man?
Oh man, classic Short Fuse, bro. I mean, this is what, like, how many like of his 4 victories, he has 3 guillotines. Like
3 wins in a row by guillotine, man. The dude's something serious.
Come on, man. I gotta ask him. I'm gonna have him on the podcast soon. I haven't reached out about it, but I'm definitely planning on having him on. I'm definitely gonna ask him too. Like, what's the secret? What don't everybody else know about the standing gilly that you can always execute in fights? And yeah, man, I can't help but be impressed by him and his ability to just show up on fight night and really bring it, man. And yeah, it was a hell of a week, like you talked about. And shout out Chris Burbridge, man. How you say the last name? I'm sorry,
Burbridge.
Shout out him, man, for making that trip across the country, making it all the way from Alaska, and yeah, dude, because he was the original opponent and then fell out and then came back just like 48 hours before the fight or something.
It was
crazy.
A lot, man. It was a lot.
Yeah, he wasn't there for weigh-ins because he was in the air flying to Plymouth, and it's crazy, man. So I had to shake his hand. Like, I'm a fan of you, man. Regardless what happened, it was like you showed up and you definitely tried. So respect to him and shout out Short Fuse.
Yeah, man. Burbridge is a gamer, man. He always comes in and fills in for these late replacement fights when he needs to. He filled in and fought against Peter Barrett one time, and he's a guy that comes in there and he's typically in there to like stand and bang with you, which I think he was just ready for that. I think he wanted that to show off his hands a little bit, to show everybody that he's not just the guillotine guy, that he can put people to sleep with his hands. But Burbridge, stepped in and got in close distance and just left his neck out there for Hughes to snatch it, man. And if you're gonna leave your neck out there for a standing gilly, that's the man that's going to pull it off. So props to Aaron Hughes, 3 guillotine victories in a row. And thank you for, hitting another leg on my parlay and get me full. And I appreciate it.
Oh man, I'm not a gambler at all. I never gamble. And I gotta start gambling. I don't know. I think next Cage Titans event, if MGM's still around, if they're still doing this, hopefully they are. Hopefully this is like a thing that it's expanding across all these promotions. But yeah, I would love for this to be a thing so everybody can do this every time they see an MMA event live.
Yeah, man, it's fun for sure, man. It's something that I don't recommend to everybody because it can get dangerous, throwing dollars around. But it does make things a lot more fun, and it does make your stake and things a lot more heavy. So it's just a fun little aspect that's added to the already fun night of fights that we had Saturday night. Let's roll right into the next one, man. We had an out-of-towner come in, Too Cold, Montreal versus Marty Navis, man, the hometown guy. We talked about Marty's retirement earlier, so that obviously we tipped our hand a little bit that Montreal went in there and got the W. This fight, man, I thought Marty did a great job in the first round of kind of just dictating the pace and doing what Marty does in all of his fights. I think he easily won that first round 10-9. Unfortunately, I think second round he came out and his gas tank just wasn't there as much in the second round. A ground scramble kind of led to Too Cold getting that position and sinking in the rear naked choke and, getting that W on the away field, and which led to, we talked about it earlier, Marty's retirement. How'd you feel about the whole fight at all, man? Because props to a guy like Too Cold for coming in, being super respectful all week, having nothing but good things to say about Cage Titans and the way that they treated him, which you hear that from every fighter, so that's not a surprise. But how did you feel just about Too Cold coming in here as the road team and getting that W?
Man, I can't help but be impressed, man. And seeing them at weigh-ins, it was just him and his wife, and they came in with another teammate who was supposed to be fighting on the card.
Mhm.
He was supposed to fight. Who was he supposed to fight? I'm
Oh,
forgetting.
Pat Gilbride.
At Gilbride, that
Mhm.
one. But that fight got scrapped. So it was just him, his wife, and one teammate. And man, they during the weigh-ins, his wife was the loudest person, and she wasn't just cheering for him; she was cheering for everybody. And just seeing that, I'm like, like I can't help but what I'm saying, admire that aspect and just showing love and being loud. And of course, she was most loud for Too Cold when he came out, and
Of course.
in the fight, he really showed resilience, which was impressive. He showed ability to come into home turf and be able to weather a full round of losing and then come back in the second, find a position and snipe a finish. It was well executed. And one other thing I'd love to shout out Too Cold for, he was on the stage with me trying to get the picture with Jaylen Brown. It
Yeah.
was me, Too Cold, and his wife, and we're just standing there waiting, like, all right, we're just gonna. He got the picture, right? Easy, because he got
Yeah.
the gloves, he
Yeah.
got you know what I'm saying? It's the fighter, you gotta
Yeah.
show
Of
love.
course.
And then as soon as they finished, JB turned around, that's when I sniped.
Yeah.
"Can I get a picture, Mr. Brown?" You know what I'm saying? Had to jump in there. And, yeah, so shout out Too Cold, shout out his wife, man, I couldn't help but be impressed, and, congrats to Marty again on a retirement and a great career.
Yeah, man, definitely, shout out to Marty. It was a pleasure watching you fight. If we never get to see you fight again, you left such a legacy on the Cage Titans
Yeah.
fan base and the people that you got to work with and spend your time with. There's nothing but great things to be said about Marty. So happy retirement. I'm sure that his teammates will see him around the gym and he'll be going in there to help his guys out and put that work in. But it was always a pleasure every time I got to see him perform, man, because he was just one of those guys that he's going to show up. Like you said earlier, he's going to show up. He's going to throw hard. He's going to bang. He's going to bring everything he has. So it's always a pleasure to watch him perform. And then, on top of that, big congratulations to Too Cold. Hopefully we see him back in the cage again, man. He was very entertaining. Like I said, very respectful. And, when you go out there and beat a guy like Marty Navis in his backyard, it gets you a little bit of a fan base out here. People start, respect you a little bit and get to know you a little bit. So hopefully us as the fans, we'll be able to see Too Cold back inside that cage again. And what a great nickname, man. Too Cold.
Yeah, Too
Wow.
Cold.
Come on. All right, man. Let's get into the next one. We had Sam Watford versus Pat Casey. Just a 3-round brawl out there, man. I think people know Pat Casey as just being like the overall aggressor and the overall just like A side of every fight that he's in because he's always so aggressive. But, Watford was able to go out there and upset the crowd, man. I think he stole it, 30-27? It was a three-round sweep. Pat Casey is a gangster, man. The fact that Watford was able to go out there and get an upset of this caliber speaks a lot to him. So congrats to him, man. Beautiful performance. What are your thoughts on this fight, man?
Another one, just like the last one, man, coming into home turf. I'm sorry, coming into opposition turf, beating a hometown guy in Pat Casey. And I really like Pat Casey at weigh-ins. I was watching, he was by himself. And like while everybody's waiting to do the ceremonial, he's literally just doing like those sweeps that wrestlers do, just sweeping like by himself. And I'm watching him do it, and he's just I'm saying, in his own little world, and watching his previous fights and how dominant he is, like you said, with the pace he presents. I can't help but be impressed with Sam Watford, man. To really look that good against a guy like Pat Casey is no joke. You have to be really impressive. But I don't know if you heard the post-fight press conference at all, but had some really interesting things to say about he doesn't care about fighting, and he only trains when he has time. And yeah, he said some interesting things, man. And you call him when there's a fight because he'll pull up. And I mean, he did it, right? He showed up on Saturday, and he definitely won a fight against a hometown guy. So you can't say he can't do it because he just did it right in front of us. But it was an interesting take on a successful night.
Yeah, I didn't catch the post fight, so that's very interesting. A very interesting way to approach your career for sure. But I mean, if the guy's out here getting wins,
Yeah.
you can't really say too much. But and it also begs the question, like, if he was more committed to fighting, how good could this guy really be? You know what I mean?
That's right.
Um, so shout out to the W for Sam Wofford, man. I know we'll see Pat Casey back in there again. I'm sure this is gonna make him go back to the gym and want to put on an even better performance next time. So whoever draws Pat Casey's name for the next one
Good luck.
better be putting that work in, man, because that boy's coming for vengeance. That's for sure.
Amen. Good luck.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Let's get into the co-main event of the night. We talked about it earlier. Jay Perrin coming back in the main event. On the flip side of that, Shameless Don Shainis coming back in the co-main event, taking on Robert Woosh to get a catch weight of 150 pounds. What was interesting to me about this fight, man, was I caught on Woostig's Instagram the morning of the fight, him stepping on the scale, tipping it over 170 pounds. So the man put on 20 pounds of body weight overnight, which, we know Shainis is a smaller guy. He's typically a 45er. He has some experience at 55, but he is a smaller guy, So Woostig came in there with a big height advantage already, adding on to the big weight advantage as well. But I had rounds 1 and 3 for Shainis. I think I had Shainis dropping round 2. But, big props to Don getting back in the win column after making his return to Plymouth Memorial Hall after his UFC tenure. Always a pleasure to see Don. He's another one of those guys that I love to, brush elbows with inside the hall. One of my favorite dudes in the region. Super nice guy. Always a blast to talk to. We both had him on our shows, and he's just very unfiltered. Will tell you how it is straight up. That's the type of people that I fuck with the most, man. So shout out to Don. Like I said, man, Shameless Nation was back Saturday night. Obviously, one of those guys that we would like to see watch. We would like to rather be watching them Saturday night on the UFC on our TV screens. But, always a pleasure to see Don Shainis back inside the Memorial Hall. And congratulations on getting back in the win column. And 29-28 on my card, 1 and 3 for Shainis. How'd you feel about it, man?
Agreed, brother. I scored it the same exact way. I thought he won the first and the third, and shout out him for coming up in the third, because most guys, they might stall a little bit, think they won the first two. Because that second round was, I would go a little bit towards Wissing, but I wouldn't be shocked if somebody said, I thought Don won.
Mhm.
So for him to come back in that third and really show you, like, I'm here, I'm winning this fight, regardless of what the fuck just happened. And at one point, it was very at the end of one of the rounds, Wissing had Don in his sub, but Don was just like, I'm a vet. I know there's only a few seconds left. I'm not going to even stress this out.
Mhm.
Yeah, man, he came back, he returned in home soil, and he did it with flying colors, man. It didn't. I'm sure he probably wanted to finish, but like you said, the size is no joke, man. He fought a welterweight that night, and this guy fights at 35 usually, or sorry, 45.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, I'm a fan of Don. Like you said, I had him on my show. You've had him on yours. That guy is as genuine as they come. He'd like take the back off of his shirt for a stranger,
Mhm.
and he's one of the coolest dudes in the region. So I'm happy to have him back. I know he mentioned maybe leaving the area, going to Vegas to train. So I look forward to seeing how that translates to his next few fights.
Yeah, this might not have been the prettiest performance from Shameless, man, but it was good. It's got to be good for him mentally, just be able to get in there, get a W, reset, reevaluate. Now he can kind of get his feet back underneath him, get that training that he's been looking for. Maybe back out in Vegas if he decides to make that turn full time. But I'm very excited to see whatever that next step for Don Shainis is. I know he has his eye on some belts that he's looking to go claim and capture. So very excited to see what he does. And then before we move on to the next one, shout out to Robert Woostig for coming in there,
Yeah.
being an absolute G, man. That guy went out there, was not shy about who he was fighting. He went out there, brought the fight to Don. He knew that he was fighting an ex-UFC guy, a guy that was coming back to his home to, try and get a W back in the win column. And Woostig just, went out there like an absolute gangster, man, and put on a great performance. Proved to everybody how tough he is, that he can hang with some of these best guys in the region. He's a big dude. His last fight he was at 155. This one was a catch at 150. So whatever Robert Woostig decides to do next, man, he's an exciting guy, very talented. Is able to put these camps together to come out here and fight. And he's another guy that deserves all the respect that he got after Saturday night because he brought it to Don Shainis, man. Some of those guys would have folded under that pressure fighting a guy like Don in the environment that they were fighting in. So Robert wasn't faltering under those bright lights, man, and he went out there and brought the fight to him.
Yes, he did, man. And credit to Robert, credit to his team up in Nostros that he trains with. Those guys really, man, they come to bang every time.
Yeah, man, they really do. Those guys are no joke, man. One of the coolest group of people too when you get to meet all of them and meet them individually. They're all super cool dudes, and they all go in there and absolutely bang in the cage, man. So always a pleasure to when you see a guy from Nostos MMA on the fight card, you know that they're gonna come in there. They're coming in there ready to scrap.
Yes, they are, dude. Love that team, man. Shout out those guys. Shout out Devin Powell. Shout out Brody. Who else? Who am I forgetting?
Oh,
There's so
they got
many.
like David Burke over there. They
Yeah,
got, Robert Woostig trains there a bit. Who else? Kyle Hill, I'm pretty sure. Just, dude, there's so many. I can't even like rattle them off the top of my head. If you gave me a little bit to think, maybe I could, but
yeah. I
put
know.
me
I
on the
just
spot.
threw. I
But
threw
it's all
both
good.
of us under the bus right there. Sorry, guys.
It's all good, man. We know who they are. All right, man. Let's get into this main event. The reason why everybody was here, Cage Titans 60, the return of Jay Perrin taking on Lionel Boogs Young. A fight that they advertised at Cage Titans 59. They announced it there. It's been a hot, heated debate between the two ever since the fight was announced. Two very strong personalities, two very talented fighters. How'd you feel about the return of Joker Gang and Jay Perrin, man?
Jay Perrin, man. I mean, it's been a while since we seen him fight, so I was just really excited to see how much better he's gotten with all this time off. And excuse me, sorry. Yeah, I was just really excited to see with all the time off. And at weigh-ins, it was definitely heated. Boogs he had the mask on. He was getting in uh uh
Jay
Jay's
Perrin.
face. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Jay's face. And he was there, man. It was really like I'm coming to take it, man. Like Jay was serious, Lionel was serious, and the fight lived up to it. They were banging for 15 minutes straight. I was a little confused why this wasn't 5-5s, but I understand. Who knows? Maybe Jay didn't want to go the full. Maybe it was Lionel. I don't know. But whatever it was an entertaining 15 minutes for sure.
Mhm.
It brought out Jaylen Brown. It brought out Chris Curtis. So I am very, very happy about it. What did you think, brother?
I thought it showed people everything that we kind of expected from these guys. I mean, we knew that Boogs was a gamer. We knew that he wasn't going to back down to any type of challenge. Jay Perrin, I was actually really impressed with the way Jay would close distance and really work like some really clean combos inside the tight quarters. But once he got into the space where he got inside Boogs's reach, Boogs was able to just grab him and keep him close and was able to like limit the amount of damage Jay was able to do from distance. Because you could tell Jay wanted to get in, get out, get in, get out, but Boogs wouldn't even let him get out once Jay got in. And Boogs is very strong, man. I think Jay even said at post fight how strong Boogs was. I think that kind of surprised him a little bit. And everybody, if you've been around Cage Titans and you've seen Boogs fight, man, everybody knows the dude's a gamer. He's gonna go in there and he's gonna fight hard until the bells ring from bell to bell, man. The guy goes out there and he lays it all on the line. I was very impressed with Boogs' performance. So a lot of people might have thought that Jay was gonna run away with this one. I think Jay, did win a decisive decision there. I don't think there's any questions about that. But I think Boogs definitely gave Jay Perrin a tougher fight than a lot of people that were in the crowd that maybe were there to see Jay, knowing that he was the UFC guy, fighting in like a regional guy in Boogs. But I think Boogs definitely proved to everybody that didn't know who he was beforehand. They now know that Boogs is that guy. And for us that have been there, we're not surprised at all for a second what Boogs did on that cage.
100%, brother. And I'm glad you brought up that point because that's so important. I think everybody was counting Boogs out from the second this fight was announced. They were, Jay's that UFC guy. Boogs is 11 in this, and he's not yada yada yada, whatever. And then Boogs was like I said at weigh-ins, he was intense. Like coming into the fight, like the walk-in was intense. They were facing off before the fight intensely. In the fight, man, it was yeah. Boogs is a real guy, man, and I'm not sure how many more fights we have of his, but regardless, they're always fun. That dude's been fighting for a minute.
For sure,
And so,
man. Very experienced dude, for sure.
all right, I got Nick here. I'm
All
gonna
right.
add him to the stream right there.
What's up, big dog?
What's up, guys? How are we, man?
Good, man.
My man, how we doing?
Feel good. Feels good to be on the show, man. I personally love these recap shows with you guys ever since the first one. I actually go back and re-listen to the first one all the time because it's like the perfect testimonial of what we want new fans or new people to come into and feel at Cage Titans. And yeah, I love the duo. I love the tradition, and happy I could finally make it on the call this time, boys.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you, man. You are, the man behind the viral moments at Cage Titans, man. You supply us all with the great social media content that you do. Obviously, with working with what the fighters give you, of course. So we appreciate you coming on and are able to come chop it up with us a little bit, man.
Oh, thank you. I hope this people don't claim me a promotional bias by having me on. I mean, like but I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate the credit. I've been getting a lot of love lately for the social media, but I kind of feel like the best analogy I can think of, it's like I feel like a flashy wide receiver when I make a big play or I do something big. Everybody sees it. Everyone wants to talk about it. It's like, oh man, that's crazy. But it's like, hey, yo, somebody had to throw me the ball. I mean, if the O-line's not blocked for him, then the ball doesn't get out there. If the coach doesn't, there's so many other pieces that have to come for me to make that big moment. So it's nice to get recognized. But yeah, man, there's so many people that make Cage Titans what it is. And last Saturday was a great example of it.
Of course, man. We just worked our way through the entire card, grappling opener to Jay Perrin main event. We worked through fight to fight. As a guy, as a promotional man, how did you feel about the content that was provided for us on Saturday night?
I mean, so from the pure, broadcast live show and social media side, that was definitely one of the better shows we've ever run. Top to bottom, our stream was immaculate that night. Of course, I didn't get to watch it. I've been rewatching all the fights because I get all the fights before everybody else.
Hey, you must know a guy.
Oh yeah, I do. I also realized I'm on camera way too much, but the stream looked phenomenal. It looked like the best broadcast we ever had. The live show, the energy in the building was great. The fans stayed late into the night and were locked into every single fight. And on the social media side, we hit our usual thing. Our impressions are around 1.5 million, which is always the number that we want to hit. We started it at the beginning of the year, and we said it's like if we can reach 1 million impressions every show, we know we're doing something right. And we definitely hit that number with some great viral moments. And it wasn't even viral moments in like the way that we usually expect them, like crazy knockouts or anything. That a lot of it was just pure emotion. Like people just felt what was happening through the screens very much and got emotionally engaged with it, which that's the biggest thing. I said coming in, we really wanted to make this card a lot of fun because we felt like we needed a lot of fun, but this card was actually very healing. It was a very cathartic card. And like you look at Jay's post-fight speech, you look at what Shameless Don has been through to get back to the Hall, and even like you learn about guys like Robert Lustig, and you learn about guys like Sam Watford, who, if you haven't seen his post-fight speech, go watch that.
We were just talking about that.
Dude, it's money. Some construction going on in the background, it seems. But yeah, and also you look at Greg Jones getting his first pro win at 50. Aaron Hughes, after the goddamn week he had to get that big win, and then get right back on the train and keep his. He's like, if he keeps at the pace that he's at, he might be in the runner for Fight of the Year. He might be. He's. It's arguable to say that he's had one of the best years in Cage Titans of any fighter. If you want to throw out the Hickson-Baugh no contest, and if they run that one back, and if he somehow comes out on top, which it's going to be a tough fight, I think they both can beat each other, and I think they both got an axe to grind against each other. But yeah, man, there's just so much cathartic, emotional moments. Montreal James and Marty Navis retiring. I mean, there were a lot of moments, especially that you just kind of like you just could not hide from the emotions we were feeling.
For sure,
night.
man. A couple of things that me and Ferris didn't touch on, which actually having you on here now feels like the appropriate time to talk about them. We had a couple of fight announcements that went down Saturday night as well. We had JoJo's title fight versus Michael Dufort coming all the way from Canada, and then we had Ross Hilton versus Joshua Marsh announced next. Both going to be going down in September. How did it feel, being able to kind of, unlock the doors on those announcements and get them out to the people? Especially, of course, we all know the JoJo and Michael Dufort one was amazing.
Oh, dude, that's so
great clip there, by the way. Sorry.
No, dude, I've been showing that to literally everybody. That's one of the most the things I'm most proud of in this industry that I've done so far. Because just a little bit of background. So we had news of this fight coming in, and we're really excited because if you know Michael, he is the guy right now around 155. He's going around. He just coming off a win of Luis Pena, who has a history with JoJo. When they were in the Tough House together, they was like this. And JoJo likes to find a way to make it personal, and it just got personal with them. And Michael, yo, man, he's of this OAM crazy French Canadian badass gangster team that they got up there. These guys are characters, and they fight super, super hard. And when he came down, he fully embraced like, hey, how far is it from Boston? Is he a Bruins fan? Okay, I'm gonna bring my jersey. I'm gonna come do that thing. And then afterwards, so I saw him in the crowd. He was dressed to the nines. I recognized him because I put together the highlight film, so I watched all of his fights. And the same thing happens. I become a fan of friggin' everybody, and I'm immediately standing this guy. And I'm like, so when you go in there, do you think you could work at Tabarnak in there? If you notice on the video, he says Tabarnak twice, which is, if for those who don't know, is a French swear word. It roughly translates to tabernacle, or it's a religious swear, like, this is my fucking house.
Right.
And he said that twice to JoJo, and then JoJo, he played it off perfectly. He's one of the best guys on the mic, and he was like, I don't even know what you said, but Bruins are the best team. The whole crowd was going crazy. Love that matchup. And dude, Ariel Helwani retweeted it. All of the Canadian MMA scene is really in on this fight, just because we sold it, not in a way like, we're making fun of Canada. It's like, no, we're bigging up Canada. We're inviting them down. Come run, send us your best guy. We got our best guy here. Let's run it and see where it goes. And I'm super excited. And also the Ross announcement for the heavyweight title, I didn't find out until they were in the cage.
Really?
That was news to me too.
Mike didn't spill the beans on that one?
And he leaks everything.
I know, but I thought maybe he would have spilled the beans to you.
Yeah, I thought he would too. And so he's going to be coming back to. So we have 2 title fights already lined up for that one. Possibly, there could be more coming. So September is already looking like a absolute monster card. We were already expecting it to be. And, with this card, CT60, we really only had 3 solid weeks of promotion. This one, we're going to have our full promotional cycle. And we have our broadcast partner, Spectation Sports, completely behind us on this one. They've realized that, we're a huge value pickup as a broadcasting commodity for the content we produce and the way we promote our fights. I think they're going to go in on this particular promotion and this particular fight card. And, dude, just really excited for the next 2 shows that we have coming up to close out the year, because for the year that we've had, our goal right now is just to become undeniable. I think at this point, the hardcore MMA fan base, they know us, they love us, they respect us. But now we want to become to the point where it's like, Ariel Helwani, you have to talk about this fight because you want to talk about this fight. Luke Thomas has to bring this stuff up, or Brian Campbell and Morning Campbell, they have to, guys like Nolan King and like all these people that are in the MMA media space that are like bigger. We're going to make them be, it's like, no, Cage Titans is undeniable at this point. They're making fights we want to see. They're telling great stories. They're building and doing great promotion with their guys. So the end of the year is to make a strong push for Fighters Mags to get a nominee for Promotion of the Year, get Mike in there for Promoter of the Year. We want to really shake up the industry with these last few shows. And, where some people were kind of poo-pooing this card coming in, we love that we came out of it and we showed it's like, hey man, even when you think that we're not pulling out our best, we're still putting out our like great stuff, undeniably good stuff.
Like you said earlier, man, you guys had a hell of a year. We still got a couple more cards left, put the cherry and the whipped cream on top for sure.
Yeah.
So we're very excited, as a couple of fans here that get to talk about it after every card. Very excited to see the stops you guys pull out next. We already have the 2 title fights, announced for the next one, which is very exciting. Two title fights that I think everybody is excited for. Everybody loves to see JoJo, and I think Ross went out there and after he beat Brendan Battles, stole a lot of hearts and a lot of fans that night, and everybody can't wait to see that guy get back in the cage. So very excited for those 2.
Yeah, what I'm really happy about, especially when it comes to terms of our titles, and I think Ozzy Brody, really showed how much guys really respect and want these titles. They're not just, regional belts that don't hold any weight. To hold the Cage Titans title, Ross Hilton right now is the baddest man in New England. That's what that title represents. Brody McDougal, by beating Ozzy Martin, it's like, I am the baddest dude in the amateur at 170 pound in New England, and it's not deniable. So, we love that our titles mean something, that guys want to like take tough fights to get them and to get to there. And dude, I'm really looking forward to the future for all of these things, and also that we are showing that we're not just waiting on the promotional cycle. It's like we're trying to get people invested while we have their attention, and I think that's one of the smarter things that Mike has been implementing over the last few years. So the promotion for the next show starts at this show. And that way, anybody that's in the building that's having a good time tonight, they'll be like, I'm not missing September.
For sure.
You talked about the bigger MMA media people, and Chris and I know, Nick, you've heard us talk about it on these recaps. We call them out every time. Like, these guys give no coverage. They don't even mention it. And I'm glad Ariel finally retweeted a little Canadian versus Boston action. How do you, two more things, Nick, how do you choose a main event for that card with two big title fights like that? And can you do the Canadian accent for the rest of this podcast?
I think I can do that. I can do the French one, or I can do just Ontario accent. Just what's a letter Kenny? How are you now? Oh, not so bad. Yeah, I have actually a great reverence for Canada. I love Canadian culture. I love Canadian music. I love Canadian food. So like to get to this fight is going to be great. As to answer your question, generally speaking, the heavyweight title goes on last. It's the most important title. It's the biggest guys. You got to save them for last, even though I think JoJo and Michael are the main event. I think they're the guys that most people are going to tune in to see. I think multiple countries are going to tune in to see that. I know that the UFC is definitely going to be watching that fight incredibly closely. So there's a lot on the line. Where Ross and Joshua, it's a rematch. Joshua has a win over Ross, and he wants to get that one back. And, I don't know if I'm leaking stuff, but, Battles is looking to get one more to get back to Ross. So, and also he has a common opponent where he's beat Joshua Marsh. So the heavyweight division right now, this could be, a great moment in time for Cage Titans in terms of that. But also, I don't think we can miss. I just don't think we can miss. And I think, as you guys know, that, this card the last card was a great example. You don't know who's going to be on this card that's going to surprise you, that you're going to be talking about on Monday. You just got to wait for these matchups to start rolling in. But I can tell you this right now, from the response that we've been getting, and, from fans is very nice. From media, we've been getting a little bit. But the response we're getting from fighters, we're getting messages and requests from fighters from all around the world now that want to come to Cage Titans. And they want to come here because they see what's like, wow, this feels like, the place where I can really make my name, make my brand. And you guys, even if I'm an out-of-towner, you guys will treat me with equal respect and give me an equal opportunity to succeed. That's for us the biggest validation. And also that the fact that guys like Jay Perrin and Don Shainis, like, these are guys that can fight anywhere in the world. They can pick up the phone right now and call any promoter and say, hey, I can come fight you. Give me a body. Like Don Shainis would be like, I want to go to California, book me in Cage Warrior San Diego. Or yep. So there's just so many different ways that we can go about it. I just got the wrap up signal here, so I got to get a move on.
No, the boss is calling.
No, man. So I'm in my gym right now, Muscle and Flow. This is my office, but I think they want to shut down and get home to the family. I probably should too.
All right, Nick. Well, we appreciate
talk to you guys for hours.
Of course, we could be here all night, but we appreciate the time, man. Thanks for coming on. Congrats on a massive year. Congrats on a massive event at CT60. Like we always say, man, didn't disappoint. Thanks for always tuning in and checking out the recap show. We appreciate that a lot. Me and Ferris come out here every time after the cards to chop it up. So we appreciate that. You appreciate us doing what we do. So thanks for everything, man. And we'll be sure to talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. And if I could just leave on one thing, I have a great respect for what you guys do, because what you guys do, it's easy to track, and you guys get to talk to UFC fighters, top level boxers, all that. But the fact that you make the time to work with up and coming fighters, up and coming promotions and stuff like that, that's harder to do than clipping UFC clips and doing all that stuff that other people are doing, or saying the most inflammatory MMA guru BS stuff. What you guys do, it comes from a place where you guys are true fans. You're working hard to get better at your content all the time. And we love that you guys use Cage Titans to come in and get better at your craft, just in the same way fighters are coming with us to get to the international levels. So appreciate you guys. Love seeing you at every show, and thanks for having me on.
Always,
Thank
man. We
you,
appreciate
brother.
you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for the platform, as always, man.
Always, man.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Later, Nick.
Peace.
All right, get him out of here now, Ferris. All right, man. Puts a bow on the show, man. What a good one, man. A couple of special guests. I know it went pretty smooth too. We might have to make this a thing in the future.
Yeah,
Before we can put a bow on it, man, and get out of here, man. Any final words?
man, this was a long one. First time we had guests on, 2 guys. I've never had multiple people on one podcast come in and out like this. So this was an experience. This was a fun one. I hope we do this again. And one last thing, isn't it kind of interesting how Valdina summarized the card the same exact way I did, just with a few different words?
Yeah, man. It's crazy how that happens, huh?
Crazy. But my man, it was a pleasure, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. We'll definitely chop it up. Big night coming up Saturday night. Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, UFC 291. The boys are going to be dialed in, tuned in. Beers are going to be flowing, and the takes are going to be had. That's for sure.
That's for damn sure.
Enjoy your Saturday night, man. We'll be talking. We'll be chopping it up until then. Always a pleasure every time we get to do these recap shows, Ferris. It's always a pleasure seeing you at the events, getting to kick you with you all night. Every time, man, it's a pleasure, and it's a good ass time. So appreciate talking to you, man.
Yes, sir. They get funner with time, so I can't wait for September, man.
Yes, sir. We'll be in the building. That's for sure.
Down for the count and he can't even talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.